but that's okay. I've introduced myself this is the 5th time, but anyway, I'm Charlotte Hampton Campbell, the Student Services Coordinator for the MSW program. And this is our final career focused session panel. We have alumni with us here today that's going to talk about healthcare. So I have questions that I'm going to ask them, but while they're answering, if anything comes to mind that you want to know, make sure you get your questions answered, because this is being put on for you to get your questions answered, either as you're making a decision to choose healthcare as your career focus, or you have already made a decision and you just want more information about what the career is really like for those that are actually practicing in that focus area. Okay, so we have Megan on the phone, and the first question that I have for them is for them to introduce themselves and just give their name and what agency they work for. And we will always start with Megan since she's not here in person, and then we'll go to you two. So Megan, you have the mic.
Sure, just my name and title, or do you want to know what I do?
Current title and where you work.
Okay. I'm the Assistant Director of Population Health Integration for the School of Medicine at SIU and the Department of Family and Community Medicine
All right, thank you.
in Springfield, Illinois.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Harden. I am an oncology social worker and I work at the Carl Cancer Center.
And I am LaShonda Gladney. I am a medical social worker at Carl, covering the emergency department, a cardiac unit, and an observation unit.
Thank you. Okay, next is talking about, tell us more in detail about your title, the work that you do, and the agency that you work for. So we'll go with you, Megan.
Oh, sorry, I just walked by outside. So starting with me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'll get it together, guys.
Well, this is your second go around, so.
I know, I was so much more organized and together for the mental health. So, I'm going to take a little bit. Basically, so just a little bit about what I do, right? I'll try to keep it kind of brief. I really like having a job where I can do several different things. So it probably sounds like I do too much, but some of these projects are only a few hours. So I started out doing integrated care at SIU School of Medicine, which if you've heard of that, is just doing kind of brief counseling, referral, screening, kind of similar to hospital social work within a primary care setting. And the primary care physicians control us and do appointments. So I really enjoyed that for about 3 years and I loved it. But I wanted to do more community outreach and program development, so I transitioned into my current role about a year and a half ago. And so I've never left, I've been in the same place the whole time, but now I'm doing more traditional psychotherapy with PTSD. And then I also, I'm still doing integrated care as well, but I'm in charge of the social work aspect for what we call the comprehensive care clinic. So at our primary care clinic, we have patients that are especially difficult and complicated medically and mentally, and those patients need longer appointments and they need more team members right then. So it's me, a pharmacist, a lawyer, legal aid, and then a physician, and we all work there in the clinic the whole morning, and we all see most of the patients. So that's the integrated care I do now, and that's 2 half days a week. And then I'm on the leadership team for our student hotspotting program, which is a program where students are put on interdisciplinary teams with medical, pharmacy, business, and nursing students and social work. And they do 6 months of case management with patients who overuse the emergency room. So patients that have failed out of every other system are matched with these teams, and then they have faculty coaches. And we do training for some regional schools as well in that. And the PTSD work I'm doing is related to a grant. So I do a little bit of grant writing too, because when you want to work with patients with no insurance or the wrong types of insurance, you usually have to create some kind of funding source for that.
Any questions?
So I think that's good for now.
Okay. Any questions for Megan? No, she said a lot.
Sorry, I tried to be really brief.
No, I mean, I appreciate you sharing everything that you do, because sometimes when you see a list of duties, it seems overwhelming, or you look at a job description, but the percentage of you actually completing those duties or tasks every day is probably not realistic to say you do 100% of each of them every day. So it sounds overwhelming, but for the most part, it's not.
Not so, it's doable.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we'll hear from you, Kimberly.
Sure. So I've been at the Cancer Center for just over 5 years now. I've done a lot of different types of social work. I've done mental health, substance abuse. I was a police social worker for several years. When the position came up at the Cancer Center, I just felt like it was an amazing opportunity. So some of what I get to do is I get to work with our oncology patients from the time they're diagnosed until the time either they've completed treatment or if the patient passes away. I always looked at it as it's an opportunity. I get to work with people at one of the most difficult times of their life and hopefully help in making that time a little bit better. So I am fortunate I have a coworker that I work with, so I'm not by myself. There's 2 of us. We facilitate support groups, we do individual counseling sessions. I've also done grant writing for various projects. One of them, I developed and implemented a survivors retreat so that our patients have an opportunity once a year to get together, and it's kind of like what an all-day conference would be for us, only it's specific to survivorship and oncology related topics. So that's just a little bit about what I do.
I don't do like the counseling that Kimberly does. There's a lot of overlapping in the healthcare setting from what I've learned, but mostly for the emergency department, there are issues with homelessness, substance abuse, domestic violence, assaults, transportation. I've helped somebody get to Alaska before. I would never want to do it again, but if I had to, I will. Up on my other unit, the cardiac unit, there is a lot of emotional support because people are in stages of different disease processes, mostly heart failure, some pulmonary, some renal disease. So there's some brief counseling up there, a lot of emotional supports, looking for resources for inside the home for seniors. I have said to people that if you could think of it, I've probably dealt with it. Honestly, if not myself, definitely a coworker. I probably have with the emergency department, but we deal with almost anything, just whatever comes through the doors. So,
Do you have any questions for Shonda or Kimberly? So the next question is, what was
I
your?
think Becky.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Yes.
I always have questions. What's the most challenging part of your job?
Having to look at a patient and tell them that the insurance won't pay for the treatment. And if I can't find a way to get that treatment paid for, they can't necessarily have that treatment. That would be the first choice. I think that's probably the hardest thing, to truly sit across from someone and look them in the eye and say, I'm sorry, we can't do this treatment.
I was like, probably when folks are at the point that they are really ready for a change, it's substance abuse mostly. Some people that are homeless, it happens, but mostly the substance abuse, when they say, I am ready, I'm done with this, I'm sick, I'm tired, and I have to look at them and say, there's no beds anywhere, I'm really sorry. Because you have to strike when that iron is hot, and if you catch them the next time, they may not be in the same spot. And now we've missed an opportunity, or they don't have the resources, their insurance, whatever the reason might be. If you can't get them in somewhere, it's heartbreaking for both myself and them.
How about you, Megan?
Sorry, again coughing. The most challenging, let's see. To me, I agree with the access issues, access to care. The only patients that also was someone who was addicted to alcohol, and there was a point where he was ready for rehab, and we didn't get him in, and then a few months later, I only saw him a few times, but, that's a really real issue, I'm glad that was brought up. But I think the hardest thing for me has been adjusting to the culture of medicine, because our program is also academic residency, so we have a lot of like young doctors that just graduated med school that do 3 years with us, and some of the, coming out of social work, we're so blessed to be around people that are typically very open-minded and accepting and warm and just willing to see patients in, different various ways. Like, someone's not just a lazy, unemployed, homeless person. Like, there's all kinds of trauma, and there's different, social learning theory and what they grew up learning and seeing in a practice environment. So in medicine, I've heard some pretty terrible things that physicians have said, and I've heard some terrible quotes that patients have repeated to me that they've heard, and we have tried to do a lot of education to our residents and to our doctors and help them kind of learn to do things differently, especially with student hospitality. That's what we're really aiming to do, but, it is a different world, and it can be tough, working with it. It can be tough being the only social worker on the floor or in the clinic when you're used to being, it's not like a mental health facility or child welfare where you're surrounded by like your own tribe. It's different. Not worse, there's a lot of wonderful doctors, but that is a challenge.
What you all are describing, I can relate to. My background is in child welfare, and for about 15 years I worked with recruiting and training foster parents. And when individuals would come to class, they have this picture of birth parents as being these horrible people. And by the end of the 27 hours of training, which is about 5.5 weeks, we try to change their mindset, and that these are individuals, and it's unfortunate that these situations happen, but we can't discredit them, and also connecting them with the department's policy that we want foster parents to embrace birth parents and help them and mentor them and encourage them, because every person should have an opportunity to raise their children and overcome whatever issues that are connected to that. But many times they would say just horrible things about the birth parent, and just trying to change that trajectory of their impression, saying that you all may have, in the healthcare. So I think it's important that you all understand that and know that when you're in the field, you will be up against those kinds of situations and scenarios, and how your, advocacy and your sincerity in who you are as a social worker, let that lead you to help change the culture. So if you could talk a little bit about what was your impression of healthcare, social work, before you started the MSW program or got your master's degree. What did you think about the field? We'll start with you, Megan.
So I actually was a child welfare specialty. So I was planning on mainly working for DCFS, and that was what my passion was. That's what I planned on doing for my entire career. And
Hello? You faded out again.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Did you guys hear any of that?
We heard the McFarland. I think that's where you were going.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was muting you because I have a dog, and I get like keep barking when other people are talking. So I started off in child welfare. I was a child welfare specialty, so I wasn't ever going to be in healthcare. That wasn't my intent. And actually, it's funny because even the job I have right now was technically through a community mental health center, and they placed me at the medical school. But I applied to be a therapist, right, in integrated care. I didn't know what integrated care was. I just thought therapy. So I would have even told you when I started this job that I wasn't going to be in healthcare. But I absolutely love it. I think I didn't realize how few people actually walk into mental health centers. Most people don't walk in unless they're incredibly sick, having a lot of consequences, really low functioning. We catch so many people early in the primary care office and in the hospital that wouldn't see a social worker if it were up to them. So we've talked to women who have come in, physically injured from domestic violence. We talk to people that, and sometimes we do have those people that are addicts that are able to get put right into detox that day. I've had that happen too, where we are able to place people, and there's just so much prevention. So it's really exciting. I think, if I can be candid, I think that social workers tend to be paid a little bit better in healthcare than in straight mental health and child health. And I also think much more support in education and training. I've gotten to have some wonderful experiences in some other states doing conferences that have really changed the way I view what I do. So I'm a total sellout now for healthcare, but I wasn't at the beginning.
Thank you.
Is that kind of what you were going for?
Yes.
I don't think I really thought about healthcare. I was sitting here trying to think of a real good answer, but I mean, that really is the truth. I didn't think about it. When I graduated from School of Social Work, I guess it was in 2004, I don't think we had a healthcare concentration. And we might, I mean, maybe somebody that's been with the school that long could say, yeah, Kimberly, we had, but I really don't remember it. I was, community mental health is actually what my focus was then. I don't know, for some reason, I just thought this would be an amazing opportunity, and I wish I had a better story than that, but I don't. Yeah, that was the truth.
And I'm along the same lines as Kimberly. I didn't know that. I knew that what I wanted to do was work with seniors. I was like, how do you do that? And I had no idea what healthcare social work was. I was like, well, I guess I'll go work in a nursing home or the VA. There has to be a lot of older people there. I just love some geriatrics, but I didn't know that there were social workers in hospitals. I was just ignorant. I had no idea. Social workers in primary care settings, like that just wasn't something that was brought to my attention until the School of Social Work. Like when I started here, they kind of helped to guide me into the healthcare sector. I knew I didn't want to do mental health, but heads up, there's a lot of mental health in healthcare. They don't tell you that. There's a whole lot of it.
Yeah, that's so true.
We're going to go to question 5. It's kind of a two-part question. What are the ways in which your organization supports the diverse populations you may serve, and have you had to change or update policies to become more inclusive?
Me?
Yes, Megan.
So the second question was, how have I had to change personally to
Change or update
diverse
policies.
populations?
Yes, policies. How have you had to, were you influential in changing policies or updating policies that impact working with the population?
Sure. So I feel like the first one was about our agency. So our agency definitely, since I started, we've split off into 2 specialty clinics, and now we have 3. When I started 4 years ago, if you needed medical services at SIU Family Medicine, you just go to one of the 4 clinics. We now have a geriatric clinic. We have the comprehensive care clinic that I talked about earlier for people with complex medical and mental health needs. That also is a common clinic for the shelters to refer patients to. And then we just this year added a medical assisted treatment clinic. So it's like medically assisted detox, but outpatient. So there is a therapist that's hired just for that clinic. There's a nurse practitioner and a physician that provides Suboxone. So I feel like at SIU we kind of have, just instead of trying to force the patients to fit into the clinic's allowance policies, they created these specialty clinics to fit the patient need, which is awesome. As far as me having an impact on policy at SIU about this, I would say the only way I have is I helped design a comprehensive care clinic. Basically, with student hotspoting, our student hotspotting patients were not making it very well with their doctors. They had bad relationships with their doctors. These are people that go into the hospital all the time, so you see like people rolling their eyes when they walk in the door, and we felt like they didn't have good medical homes. So me and then the other hotspotting lead, Janice, our pharmacist, and Tracy, my boss, who's actually a doctor in nursing practice, we just all complained a lot to administration, and we didn't just complain, we came up with solutions. So we said, okay, But we can't fix the culture here enough, fast enough to meet these patients' needs. Can you give us 1/2 day a month to try to build something and create something new? And we did, and then now we're at 2 half days a week. So we had to show outcomes through in healthcare. You have to show outcomes often numerically, financially. So we did. We tracked a lot of things, and it grew. So that was really good. I learned a lot through that process.
You said 2 key pieces in your response. You identified some barriers or areas of concern, and when you went to administration, you also went with recommendations. Always,
Right.
Yeah, a good strategy that more than likely you will be heard, and they will know that you really put some time and effort, and you're just not a complainer, but you're also about actions coming with recommendations as well.
I guess the thing that comes to my mind is something that I don't feel like we do as well that we can improve on is survivorship care. And what I mean by that is you come in and you're diagnosed and we treat you and we work with you and we wrap all these services around you, and then you finish and we're like, bye, and we give your certificate and you go out the door, which is a huge transition from people that are used to being with us sometimes on a daily basis, or at least a couple times a month, and then all of a sudden, we're kind of just showing you the door. So we've worked hard to really build up our survivorship aspect, so to continue working with our patients even after they finish treatment. That's part of the survivorship retreat as well, is just to build those services, so people don't feel like they're just kind of tossed out the door and there you go. But, so I would say that's an area that we've recognized as needing an improvement and that we're working on.
Question 5.
Mhm.
So since Carl is the hospital, so we see everyone with any and every background come in. And when I think of diversity, I don't just think of like racial or ethnic, but also financial. Because we have I don't want to call it, and it's a financial assistance program that really serves a good chunk of all of Carl's patients. I want to say like somewhere about 40 to 50% of people qualify for something, some type of a discount. And it's between 50, 100, or even like this other program that makes it so that you don't pay more than a certain amount of your income towards medical bills. So we have that, and we have in-person interpreters that range from, we have one that speaks Mandarin, we have quite a few French interpreters, a lot of Spanish interpreters. We have some people that come in and do American Sign Language. I think that is a huge way of us catering to our diverse population here, especially with such all of the international students that we have, and a very high Congolese population in this area. We have a special program for the Amish community for financial aid, and I also think of some people with certain religious practices. There was a situation where due to religion, in the death and dying process, there were certain practices that this patient and their family felt had to happen, or their loved one's soul was not going to go to heaven, or whatever their idea of a good place was. And we made it happen. There were, I think it was like a shaman in there, and they were burning things, and they had to do it within like 24 hours and prepare the body, get the body out, which is unheard of in a hospital doing those kind of things. But we made it happen because that was what was important to our patients' loved ones, and our patient, even though they were no longer with us, but spiritually still tending or catering to what this person would have wanted anyway. And I know that one was the more intense one, but we catered to a couple other religions and trying to make sure that what they needed was done. Whether that's like somebody was they have like a 24-hour prayer service, like around the clock in the room, and they let the body stay in the room instead of moving it. It's amazing. So those kind of diverse situations and populations too.
Sorry to interrupt, that's so incredible. I love that.
It was amazing. It was not my patient. I don't know what I would have done, but the person, it was David.
Oh,
who was Kimberly's intern at one point, but making that happen was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Did you have pushback from, did David have pushback when he went to the administration and said, we need to accommodate his family's spiritual needs?
From what I can remember, it wasn't so much pushback like, this is a terrible idea, it was just like, what are we gonna do to make this happen? And then they just went, okay, David, if you can figure it out, which is why social work is so important, because we are the problem solvers of the impossible. People think that we can legit work miracles, but in that case, I think he did. I don't know how he did it, and between him and the chaplain, of course, and administration, because they had to clear for some things, but I think they really didn't want to help. It was just, how do we help?
This is not on the list, but I just wanted to ask, because you all work in the healthcare profession where you see people daily that have experienced emotional and medical trauma. How do you take care of yourself? What does self-care look like for each of you? Because you've already mentioned some situations that sounded horrific, and I was thinking as you were talking about them, what did you, when you went home that evening or after work, what did you do to be able to come back in the next day and, you know, feel good about what happened in yourself to continue? And I'm really talking about when you have to tell a patient that they, you know, there is no monies to cover the treatment that they need.
I think something you have to learn right away is you have to make peace with the fact that you will not solve every problem, and you won't. And yes, LaShonda's right, and they think social work is miracle workers, and we've got pixie dust and magic wands, but you know, sometimes I'm not a pixie dust, and I truly cannot make the situation happen, no matter what you try and where you go to and where you, so I think you really do have to make peace with that fact, that sometimes you will not have an answer, you will not have a solution, and sometimes the answer is no. I think, one thing that I think is really, really important is having people that are your team that you can reach out to, and you can say, I'm really having a bad day. I'm having a bad day, this is what's going on. I have a couple people that I consider on my team, that are people that I can reach out to and say, this is bad, you know, this is what's going on, and it's not necessarily people that are inside the cancer center with me. My people are actually people that are outside the cancer center. One of them is my husband. Could not do this job without him, and the support that he continually gives me. We joke about, it's called a code blue, and if I've lost a patient that day, meaning a patient's passed away or something's happened, that means like I'm gonna be baking things that night, because that's how I handle it. Or he looked at me the other day and he said, yeah, you need to go for a run. You need to go. So put on your shoes and go. But having somebody that can recognize that and then kind of give you that push out the door when you need it.
Did you want to add anything, Megan?
I think that was so perfect. I really don't have a whole lot else to say other than that. I know that having a support system is huge. I can look back on times in my life when I had very little support. When I was living in Urbana, I was 3.5 hours away from family. And there was a period where I wasn't in any kind of relationship, and I had a few friends move on to other states after graduating. And that was kind of a rough spell for me. And I know that it affected my work, looking back when I was in child welfare. And as tough as that job was, it was tougher because I didn't have a good support system. So now, I think part of the reason I'm doing so well is because I have a very good support system built. And that's, in some jobs, it's a little easier to get by on your own, but in social work, I almost think you can't. Like, you have to have those good friends or family or whoever to talk to. I'll also say that something that helps me is I've developed this really strange, eccentric, like, excitement over science fiction. It was a thing I did to, like, placate my husband, to, like, be a team player and try to take interest in something he was into while making fun of him for it. But now, like, we kind of watch Doctor Who on Amazon. It's like British nerdy alien show. Like once a week on the weekend, and we might watch. You know, if I have a really bad day, I might just check out and watch full Star Trek episodes. And it's not related at all to social work at all. So I think having something in your life, and I have other interests too, like, we love being outdoors, we like to go to concerts every now and then. But you have to have stuff that's not related to the field. Like, you can't go volunteer after work and think that's gonna be enough self-care, because that's still pouring down yourself.
Did you have anything to say?
So the best thing someone ever told me, and it was when I was an intern, because we go into social work because we think we can change the world, and we can. A person at a time, we absolutely can, and that little change to them is changing that person's world. But sometimes when you do have to say no, it really feels terrible. And the social worker who just retired, she said, LaShonda, people don't come into the hospital a Pinto and leave a Lexus. They just don't, and you can't make them do that. She was like, sometimes they leave worse than a Pinto. And I had to make peace with that and be okay with that. It's like giving yourself permission to, whatever is the idea of failure in your head, being at peace with failing. And really, it's probably not even a failure. Honestly, it's just we're perfectionists. Partly why we went into social work as well. And we think that we can move mountains, but it's okay to move molehills. That's perfectly fine. So that making peace with not doing exactly what you wanted to do and being okay with that.
I'm gonna jump around a little bit on the questions because each time I've done these, we've run out of time. But before I go to the next question, I wanna ask the students, comments, questions? Anybody changing their mind about healthcare? Anybody like, yes, this is what I wanna do, yes. Anybody wanna connect with them afterwards?
Like the conversation of, yeah,
Yeah.
I know I'm not there, but I'll give you my phone number, 298-2002.
Healthcare is a great field. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. There really is. There's a lot of interesting things that you can do. And I mean, LaShonda and I both work for Carl. Our jobs have similarities. We won't mention the paperwork. We'll try not to. But, you know, different things as well, even within the healthcare setting in the same agency.
I think all the concentration is paperwork.
Oh,
Paperwork.
Yeah, what is the interaction percentage, like patient interaction versus paperwork?
We're trying to be positive, so we probably shouldn't talk about that. No. I'm kidding. Some of it I think it's about what you want to make it. In my situation, so I have the luxury of a captive audience. If somebody's there for chemotherapy, I can spend all day long in the infusion area and I can go from patient to patient and talk and spend time. And I mean, there are responsibilities and paperwork and meetings I have to do, but for me, a lot of it just depends on how much interaction do I want to have. But I'm fortunate that way, and I don't have the same restrictions.
It depends on what the interaction is, because I might find myself doing a prescription assistance application, or a facility application, or a Medicaid application.
Social Security disability.
I don't have to do those.
I did that this morning.
Because she's on the clinic side, she takes care of those. But it depends. Like, I can spend an hour with the patient and I can document that whole hour. Or if I don't, I document like half of that and leave out the fact that their dog is a Cavalier and that is purple because they dyed it that because their hair is purple and they love the color. You will hear everything, every detail of a person's life. But you document what you feel is pertinent. And then you just put, I spent the last 5 hours of my life and I'll never get that back.
That's so true.
But it was great, it was fun, I just won't get it back.
Can I say one thing about documentation really quick?
Yes.
I think there's less of it, because I did 2 years in child welfare, and then I did about a year in community mental health. Well, a year in a handful of them. So, in community mental health, we have something called Rule 132, which is a Medicaid rule, which dictates the paperwork. So the agency I worked for had no control over the documentation. The state dictated what needed done or would get paid. So, I'm not knocking community mental health. It's so needed, it's incredibly important, but it was a lot more paperwork. And in healthcare, we have templates and electronic health records, so even though it is still a route that uses sometimes, there is, but I think healthcare needs to be a little better at streamlining things And because you're sometimes entering into the health record, you don't cut everything. A, because like someone else just said, it's not important. But B, you don't want to divulge too much in a health record. So I think out of the two other areas of social work I've worked in, I definitely spend less time documenting now than I used to.
Did you have a question?
I did have a question. Can you speak a little bit about what it's like to work for the larger organizations? So you all kind of work for what I would consider to be large institutional organizations. And what, the good things about that, and maybe if you have any challenges.
Do you have a copy of my questions?
Do
You on a roll, you
Well, I've been
gone.
just reading so much. Sorry.
I can start again.
Okay.
I think, so I really love working for a large organization because, and again, being really candid and not being all about money either, but I was actually in a position when I worked for a very small not-for-profit federal agency. I didn't take a trauma class, and I didn't learn a lot about mental health because I didn't take those classes. So I asked to attend training on child trauma because I had a case that was severe physical abuse, and the kid was, just so challenged. And I was driving him around and really struggling, and I wanted to learn more about it. And I was denied, and they said it wasn't related to my job. What that actually meant, I think, was they didn't have the money. And now, I just got trained in EMDR, which is a specialty PTSD treatment, and I got trained in it because I'm getting more challenging trauma cases through this grant, and they made it happen. Like, they found a way to work it into an existing grant. So that's the benefit of working for a large agency, I think. Financially, if you have a desire or need, you can tell them this is how it'll benefit your agency and your patient panel. Usually either they'll pay for it or they'll find a funding stream that exists, because at SAU we have direct contracts, we have grants, and we have money for being a federally qualified health center. That's separate money. We have money for being a patient-centered medical home. So when you work for a larger agency, yes, it's not like the family that a small agency can be, where you know everybody, where you walk in and everybody's like, how's your cat? How's your kid? Here's the money, here's the money for your own subsidies, but instead you get something too. So sometimes people can feel a little bit more anonymous, but that's why it's important, like someone else said, you have to have that team. So even though it's not as mom and pop as being a huge building and being part of a huge system where there's all requirements, like annual training and stuff, annoying things. I have a team that I'm part of that I'm very close with. So we go out after work sometimes and hang out together and travel together. So I think it is, any setting has pros and cons. The small has pros and cons, the big has pros and cons. I'll probably always work for a large system personally because I'm having a good experience with one. But you just have to think about what you want, what's right for you. And I think in healthcare, there's both. You could work for a very small primary care agency. You could work for a large medical school. You could work for a huge system like Carl. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities.
And I think it depends, that hasn't necessarily been my experience, Megan, with a large, giving you more opportunities for training and stuff. I fight a lot harder now to try to get training and to get the funding for it, and I won't get on that soapbox. But I think it really just depends. That's not been my experience with a large organization. I've worked for small, I've worked for large. It's been interesting. It was a very hard transition for me to go from a small agency to a large agency.
Yeah, I'm with Kimberly on it because we work for the same place, so I feel her same struggles. But I will say, just like what Megan said, even though it's a large building, I like to fly under the radar if I can. I make friends with all of the doctors and all of the nurses because you help me and I help you and everybody wins. And we all love each other. But our social work group is so tight-knit. They're like my family because I'm not from here either. Like Megan's was far from her family, I'm far from mine. So my coworkers have become my family. So even though we're in a huge system, I still have that tight-knit group that I can go to. So. Pros and cons.
Do you anticipate doing healthcare for the remainder of your careers?
Yes. I love healthcare.
Why? And then tell us why.
I love the fast pace. I used to think I was gonna work for a nursing facility because I liked seniors and I didn't know where else can I find seniors but a nursing home. But you can find them anywhere, number one. But I like the fast pace of it. I can't imagine being behind a desk. I might do like counseling PRN at some point, but I really enjoy the healthcare system and the problem solving of healthcare, the support that you have to give people through some of the darkest times of their life. I view it as a blessing on both ends. But I just can't imagine being anywhere else but some kind of hospital. It's just, I think it's phenomenal. That's my personal opinion though. Maybe not the emergency department forever. I'm the longest lasting social worker for the emergency department.
I didn't know.
And I'm not crazy. I'm not completely crazy yet. So I think I'm doing very, very well. But I love what I do.
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question, because sometimes I still think, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I don't know. I went to speak to a class one time, and I was actually going over my background and the different jobs I've had, and talking about it, and somebody raised their hand, and I'm like, oh look, somebody has a question. And this student looked at me and goes, you've had a lot of jobs. And I was like, okay, I look at that as a positive because I love that about social work, I've got a lot of experience, but the way he said it, I'll never forget that. I was like, okay, I'm not winning points with him. So I don't know. While I love what I'm doing and I love the opportunities I have, and can I say forever? Yeah, I don't know. The thing that I've run into about social work, and LaShonda can say yes or no with this since we're the same organization, there's nowhere for me to go. I'm at the top of my career. I can't go anywhere if I stay in this particular situation. So I don't know. Like I say, what do I want to be when I grow up? Still working on it.
That's true.
How about you, Megan?
Okay, but did you say hold on?
No, I said, how about you? Do you plan to
Oh.
stay in healthcare for the remainder of your career?
Heck yeah. I'm not very good at being diplomatic. I tend to be kind of blunt. I love that it's funny because I've kind of done this panel in the past and had different ideas and things, but I think this is a great time for me to talk about my job because in the past 4 years, I think academic medicine is cool and that it's innovative and you're around people that are deep thinkers and they really do want to create good experiences and they're, someone told me in grad school, I don't remember what professor it was, something probably Sandy Coastal would say. But I think it's like a common quote, but one of the professors quoted it to me and it was, if you're the smartest person in the room, get into another freaking room. So I'm never the smartest person in the room. Like, I was actually just talking to Dr. Moroka, who's the main doctor I work with in our specialty clinic, and I was talking to her about how to document for this trauma group I do at a shelter, and it was a small thing, but she thought of like 2 different clinical reasons that it would be a good idea to do it, and one reason that it would benefit the other doctors for me to do it, and I hadn't considered those things. And I like to think of myself as like bright, right? I didn't mean to think, but I didn't think of what she said, and it was so obvious when she said it. So I just feel like I think healthcare is such a national focus, and there's such a need for advocacy as well. But I hope that staying in this field of healthcare will help give me some street cred, so that if I ever do try to do any advocacy, I can.
Thank you. Well, we have about a minute and a half. Any final questions for our panelists? Would you all like to share any final words to the students as they are in different stages of their completing their degree?
I would say thank
Thanks
you.
for being social workers.
Yeah. But I would say thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you, because also one of the things for me for self-care, and it is always important to be able to come talk to new social workers and people going into the field, because it reminds me, you guys inspire me and remind me why I chose the field and why I keep doing what I do even on the hard days, so thank you.
Yes, yes, agreed.
How do you follow up with that? Great. People say fight the good fight all the time, but it's true. We are fighting the good fight, and Megan had mentioned earlier that we're going to be in, depending on where you go, in somebody else's playground. And it can be frustrating, it can be difficult, but also very rewarding. And you just got to continue fighting that good fight. Put your foot down, dig in, and make some amazing stuff happen.
Well, I thank you, and I'm sure the students do too, for taking the time out of your busy schedules and coming and presenting with us today, and hopefully you will answer my call in the future, my email in the future. So let's give our panel a round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Megan. All right, well, that ends our discussion for today. Ooh, we finished on time. All right. Please make sure you signed in. I need that information.